Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the September 23rd meeting of the school committee to order. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm going when we're
I
not
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
I'm illegal.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is to ratify the agenda for this evening. Take a motion to so do.
I move to ratify the agenda of September 23rd, 2020.
Thank you, Jeff. Moved by Jeff. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Nicole. Any discussion on the motion, Jeff?
Sir.
Anyone else? Call to the vote. Kathy?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And George, yes. And one of my favorite parts of school committee meetings is the next agenda item, Skyla Rimple, the student representative, for her report.
Good evening. I'm really happy to be back after a long time of not being able to be here. Back to school is definitely different, but it's not that bad. I've been at home this week because I'm in the Falcon cohort, and it's okay. It's a lot more structured now than it was last week, and I've just heard from a lot of other schools they're doing like half days on Zoom, and it's just so complicated. Like, I'm just at least glad that we get to go back at all. I would say that, so to start off, some fall sports have returned too, which we're also really happy to have. I'm playing soccer this year, and we've started back up, and some other teams are starting as well. And with that, the girls and boys soccer team is planning to have a bespoke fundraiser outside in the Commons on Saturday the 3rd, which is going to be fun for uniting the community, but also safe and socially distanced. Some of the programs that have been running since the school closure was one thing called COVID Connects, which was a pen pal summer program, which matched rising 10th to 12th graders with some rising 7th graders, where there was a couple of letter exchanges in the mail between the two. I was with this rising 7th grader. I haven't met him yet, but his name was Daniel, and we were able to exchange some advice about going into the new school, and there was a couple other people in my grade who got to do that with rising 7th graders too. So that was good. Another thing is that, so on September 11th, people from Project 351 every year usually go up to Boston and serve, but we couldn't do that this year. And so Anna Fernandez of Falmouth, who's in the same grade as I am, and we went to Falmouth Public Library's Veteran Memorial, and we made tribute stones like there are every year, and we put them out and displayed them at the Veterans Memorial there. And then Mashpee Ambassador Andrew Kelly, he added his rocks later that day on 9/11, and it was part of a statewide service project that's hosted every year. So we took rocks and then we painted them or spray painted them, and then you write the name, you get assigned a name of someone who died on 9/11 that had a connection to Massachusetts, and you read about their biography, and so you're able to remember them. And usually when we do it in Boston, their families come and they look at all of them, and it makes them feel really good because they see that the person that they lost was remembered. And so this year was all virtual, it was all posted online, and Andrew and I are working on making a virtual one to display the ones that we made and some of the other people on the Cape made. The National English Honor Society was something that was just getting started before the closure and then really had to birth during it. And so we elected officers, so I just wanted to highlight those because that's an accomplishment. The president of it is Juliana Reynolds, she's a junior. The vice president is Will Baker, who's a senior. Secretary is Shivani Patel, who's a senior. And the treasurer is Ben Kennedy, who's also a senior. And they were invited just before the lockdown because you would have had to have high academic standings as well as an interest and recommendation in English and literature. And the National English Honor Society was also part of the COVID Connects program because part of English Honor Society is to encourage and increase literacy and interest in writing and getting better at that skill through the district. So that's why we tried to connect that program with the English Honor Society. And Juliana, she has a lot of ideas to really get it going this year, so I'm excited for that. I wanted to highlight that the We Are Mashpee store has an online store that is up and running, and so if anyone wants to look at that, Consuelo and I have been working hard on that for a while now. We had some well-wish card programs going on during the closure as well, for Cradles to Crayons and for the elderly at Katuitt Royal. So in both of those, there were students and families in Mashpee that mailed me cards, and the ones for Cradles to Crayons were just sent out last week, and they'll be sent with the students who are in the care of the Cradles to Crayons program in Boston, going in their backpacks, and those are to encourage them for back to school. They're things like good luck with your first week or stuff like that. So those are going to be sent out after having to hold on to them for a while. And then months ago, I went to the Katuitt Royal and delivered the cards that were to encourage the elderly while they were in their extended isolation. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions?
Just one question. Can you give a shout out for the public in regard to what the online website is for We Are Mashpee?
Oh, so it's a Google site and it has all of the clothes and the accessories and everything that's sold at the store. And then it has an online form that you can fill out, and then we can make your order there, and then you can come and pick it up, or we can do it curbside.
I can put it in the chat of the Zoom. The address.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, was what the address was, so.
It's not easily readable. It's got lots of garbled.
Okay.
So, but I'll put it in the Zoom chat.
And if you could send that also to the committee members? I'd appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you, Skylar.
Thanks,
Thank you
Skylar.
very much, Skylar. Good
Nice
to have
to
you
see
back. Welcome back.
So good to
Thank
see
you.
Next is the representative from the tribe, Mashpee Tribe. Is anyone here? Yes.
Yeah, Roxanne, is it? Yeah, sure. Right here? Are they right here?
Yes.
Come right over here. Wingiki Sa. It's good to be back. It's the second time I've been dressed since the COVID. The first time was Father's Day, so. Sporting new clothes. I'd just like to share a few things with you that are happening with the tribe, and some of which is happening with the Mashpee Public School District. Our Building Pathways NYCP College and Career Readiness Grant was extended through the end of the end of November. It would have ended September 30th, but we did have some funding carried over due to the COVID and the lack of college visits, etc. So some of the things we will be doing with our high school kids in Barnstable County are college and career virtual visits. We can help with the FAFSA. We can provide any kind of tutoring for the SAT or PSAT. We will continue to pay for the Wapanat Pasak class for the school year, and we will also continue with about 3 internships for which we provide those stipends. And we're available. We're not working in the office, but we're all working remotely, and we are in contact with students. So that's one thing. The tribe during the month of August applied for a grant through the Department of Education, demonstration grant, Accessing Choices in Education. And in essence, what it is we are to provide an online method for our parents to be able to select supplemental activities for their children. And we will be working, hopefully, if we're awarded the grant, for a 6-month planning period to get that online portal available and up and running. We have a list of service providers that we will contract with. We have cultural supplemental programming. We've met with some of our premier cultural education resources, a few Paula Peters, Jen Weston, Linda Coombs, Casey Thornburg, who has a PhD in climate, if you can imagine, so that we can develop a database of service providers, of topics, timelines. In essence, how long is that professional development piece or technical assistance piece? Who is it geared towards? Students, parents, LEA staff, State Department staff, and we will be able to provide those services in the online database so that our parents can really start choosing supplemental activities for their children. And that focuses on academic, cultural, college and career readiness, technical skills, and life skills. Towards the end of July, we submitted a grant called the State Tribal Education Partnership. We currently have a partnership with Department of Elementary and Secondary Education as well as the Mashpee Public School District. And the point of that is to help establish our tribal education department as a tribal education agency. And there's a little bit more status there for us to become really partners with the public school districts in the state. And we're looking towards the Title I students that are receiving Title I services, those students that have gaps in their learning, those students that are on the other side of the spectrum where they need to have challenging supplemental coursework or dual enrollment, working to work closely with the school, get written parent permission to receive the data, the academic data from the school, so that we can go from point A to point Z, if you will, and really try to help and intervene in their learning as a partner with the public school. We never want to supplant. We never want to do the job that you're supposed to do. We want to help and supplement that. The other part of that is we're working also towards the Title II program to provide any type of technical assistance or professional development for the education staff in the LEA, as well as the Department of Ed in Boston. And that's part of the development of this cultural education resource database with our cultural human resources, is to actually identify those professional development pieces that we can take and offer to the public, to our students, parents, and our colleagues in the public school system. And that was submitted at the end of July. And lastly, this is an exciting piece, is the construction bid went out for our child care center last week. There'll be a pre-bid walkthrough at the site off of Meeting House Road on October 5th at 11 o'clock. Bids will be received until October 13th at 2 o'clock. And those will be received at the Tribal Government and Community Center off of Great Neck Road South. And at 2:30 on the 13th of October, we will be opening and reading those bids to the public. That will be on Zoom. So that's an exciting piece. We have a great construction team. Ernie Virgilio is our project manager. Eileen Miranda is the program manager for the Child Care Development Program. And our architect is RGB. So we have a great team and a great set of professionals we work with. We're very excited. And I think the one good thing too, just for your own knowledge, is we will give preference to tribal members, Native Americans, but we will also be open to the public when we don't fill those slots. So thank you very much. Tabatanamu, and it's great to be back and see you all again. The last thing I'd like to say is during our partnership meeting, I think it's on the 13th of October, one of the things I would like to engage in is talking about how we as an education department can be more involved in the programming, what can we do to become more involved, looking at our kids and how can we help? So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I just wanted to make sure that did you get a copy of the land acknowledgement final poster?
Oh, I didn't.
No, so I wanted to make sure that you had that.
Thank you
I'm
very
going
much.
to talk about it a little later, but that one. Hold your phone to that, you can hear Leslie read.
Oh, boy. Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Roxanne. Thanks, Roxanne.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is, recognition to a school committee member. Should we move that to the end of the meeting?
Let's table that.
Table it till the next meeting, even better. Oh, boy.
Don't make me
Chris, I
sign
do
up for
the
public
short-
comment, George.
I'm sorry, Chris?
Don't make me sign up for public comment.
I do the short straw. So,
Yeah.
the Academy of Motion Science and Arts have their Academy Awards. That was the first thing to come out. Then we came out with the Emmys and the Edgars and the whole mess of things down the line, and Hall of Fames with all sorts of people in there becoming recommended for the Hall of Fame and because of their accomplishments. And we don't have a Hall of Fame here for you, but we do have a thank you for your accomplishments while you were on the school committee. Your service was greatly appreciated. It's been with 6 years total,
Yes, sir.
and it was a pleasure working with you.
You as well.
Well, it wasn't all 6 years, that was 5 of them, I think, but it was a pleasure working with you. We had all sorts of different things going on during that period of time, particularly at the beginning, but it was a pleasure. And on behalf of the school committee, I'd like to present you a very small token of our appreciation, and also this plaque, which is from the school committee in appreciation for your 6 years of service, dedication, and commitment to the Mashpee Public Schools.
Thank you very much, George.
No, not at all. Wait, maybe I do. Go ahead.
I promise I won't take up too much of your time because we've already done this in the past, and I know how these meetings go. But I do want to say, just coming back, I appreciate the invitation to come back, especially during this time. It's very difficult. It's kind of like seeing old family that you haven't seen for a while. I do miss every single one of you, even Hope, just a little bit.
I was actually excited that he included me.
But this has never really been about me. I was just honored, and I appreciate the opportunity I had to be part of, the Mashpee District and the 6 years that I was able to serve with all of you. And now that I'm actually here, I can say congratulations to Nicole and to Kathy on, winning back your seat and winning the seat. I was very happy to see that. Continue doing what you guys are doing. I know, there's been some great work happening here, during this time. It's been extremely difficult. And like I said, I know firsthand how difficult it can be behind the scenes. The public might not see everything that's going on, especially with, the regulations and rules that you're up against. But from this side of the house, I can say now, as a parent and as just a person from Mashpee, that you guys are doing a fantastic job in keeping up with everything and managing what you have to deal with. So I appreciate that, and thank you for everything, and thank you for having me back. And I look forward to seeing what happens with Mashpee going forward.
Anyone else have a comment?
No?
Okay.
I'll never forget the time we spent together over the policy manual.
That'll always have a special place in my heart.
And your recommendation that I join the policy prior to that review. But anyway, we miss you, and it's so nice to see your face, and I'm anxious for things to get back to normal. I'm sure you'll be in for public comment.
Absolutely, at some point I will. Just make sure you keep Don in line.
Yeah.
Kathy, please.
I wanted to publicly thank you too, Chris, because I was originally came in a little bit early before the term, and I think you were just
Yeah, about 6 months
like
in.
May, I think you came in May and I came in August, and so I was under his wing the entire time, and I really appreciate your mellow and slow and good deliberation, and your very introspective thoughts about things. You always had a different take on everything we talked about. It was always great to bend your ear outside of the committee, and I'm glad to have met you as a committee member and as a friend, so good luck with it.
And likewise, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Once again,
Thanks,
thank you.
Chris.
Thanks, guys, for your holding the plaque.
Of course.
You too, Chris.
Only one question.
Yes, yes, yes. Take it off your shirt. There you go.
Perfect.
Thank
You
you,
gonna stay?
Thanks, Chris.
I got dinner.
Bye,
See you.
Chris.
I appreciate it, thank you all.
Bye,
Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Next
Appreciate it.
order of business, changed. Approval of the minutes, motion to approve the minutes of September 2nd, please.
So you're skipping public comment?
Oh, thank you. Public
Right.
comment.
There is none.
I'm skipping public comment.
All right.
I can say Chris just walked out the door.
Yeah, okay, we're safe.
Okay.
All right, how about the minutes of September 2nd? Thank you, Nicole. A motion to approve the minutes of September 2nd.
I move to approve the minutes of September 2nd, 2020.
The motion made by Jeff, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nicole. Any discussion on the motion, Jeff?
None?
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, in regard to item 5, the comments from Rodney Collins, I believe there was also a statement that he made in regard to repair of any damages, that I think it was important that we make sure it was noted in the minutes. Does anyone else recall that?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do, and I have no problem with it.
Okay, I just think that's
That's a very smart comment.
Yeah, good catch.
salient point.
Motion as amended by Jeff, do you second that?
Yep.
Any additional comments on the minutes? Hearing none, call for the vote. Kathy?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And George? Yes. Report of the superintendent. It's all yours.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to start by highlighting the start of the school year. This is the end of the 6th day. It's actually the 16th day for teachers, though, and there's a group of people I really want to recognize and commend. The principals are going to talk a little bit or share a couple minutes about their own buildings. But first and foremost, I really have to express our gratitude to our teachers. So they spent 10 days in advance of the student arrival really cramming a lot of learning into themselves, and that can be very tiring. And on top of adjusting or planning for what will be somewhat of a different year, they also have their own concerns about health and wellness and safety. So there's a lot of layers to being a teacher this year, but we've just been so impressed, not only within that first 10 days, but then when we've gone through classrooms since then, on the other 6 days so far, and how teachers are really they've really stepped up their game. And every teacher started out with remote learners as well as in-person learners. We've had a few classrooms that have, at the lower elementaries, that have gone 100% in person now. They've been able to sort of persuade their at-home learners. But they're all doing a great job at what they're doing. And they're learning as they go, and we're definitely not going to be perfect at this, but I will say it's just really, it's amazing to me when I walk into classrooms to see how they've adapted. And, we've had a lot of conversations about expectations in terms of, they're all just doing their best and we're just going to learn together. And they really do help each other a lot. They know they're just a very impressive group. And part of that group is also Mary Stickley as the president of the association. I just want to acknowledge the collaboration that we've had, her leadership, and sort of guiding her group into embracing being back in school and being educators with students sitting in front of them. So I appreciate that. I want to acknowledge Kathy Loiko and Hope Hanscom here. They have been sort of the bus team. And although the whole admin team was involved with cohorting students, then after the cohorting there was so much work with the buses. And so The one thing we're working on sort of improving or seeing where we can improve is the buses, because of so many parents are driving their children. It's a little bit of a gridlock. It's getting better every day though, and but they have spent hours and hours and hours. Mostly pleasant with each other, but sometimes a little contentious, but for the most part, they're pretty good with each other.
Can I just say, I dreamed legitimately about Bus 21 last night, and I am not exaggerating.
Yes. And it's a very complicated process, so we've sort of said to some parents, let us know if you want to switch from driving your child to being on the bus. So this is Hope's report. Since September 16th, we have had 58 requests for bus transportation. And so far, 40 additional seats have been able to be assigned, and there are 18 seats that are pending. And those 58 requests represent 44 families. So, and then in terms of the buses, the high school run is not an issue for the most part, but the elementary, one bus is at capacity and almost capacity on several others. So that's something that's probably going to come back before you at some point in terms of a conversation. But both schools have continued to problem solve. It's particularly, I think, cumbersome with the pickup because no one's going into the building, so the kids have to, come out, get in the right car. And I think this school has it down to about 10 minutes or so, a little above 10. The little people have a harder time over there, so we're working on it. And connected to that, I just want to express appreciation to the Mashpee Police Department. They have provided his support every single day. When traffic's on Old Barnstable and the bus is stuck in there, they're helping them get out. So I'm very, very grateful. They've been at all 3 schools, arrivals, dismisses, and things like that. I want to also express the gratitude to students. I know I was talking to one particular high school teacher who had his doubts, and he said he has not had one issue with students keeping their masks on. The kids are very compliant in terms of, lining up where they're supposed to line up on their dots. Within the classrooms, they're all doing what they're supposed to be. They seem to be, I think, and I've talked to most of the kids, they're grateful to be there. And it is a little different because the classes, sometimes you walk in a class that might have 8 kids and then the rest are on the Zoom. And then it's just it's a different feel when there's so few kids there. So far it's working great. I do want to also express to the DPW, the custodians and the maintenance crew have done such a tremendous job for us. Above their normal cleaning, the maintenance department and custodians have moved more furniture than you would ever expect. We have 10 completely full trailers on the campuses, 2 at each school, and 2 at each school here, 2, 4, and we have 6 at the high school, I think. There's a lot, and hopefully, personally, I hope some of that furniture doesn't make its way back in, but anyway, it might make its way to the auction for the town. But they have, helped line the halls, put all the spacing down, the hand sanitizers, the paper towel holders, all the bathrooms being touch-free. There's just so much to what they're doing. And then now that there's an extra custodian each day, a day custodian at each school, that's primarily, there's 2 at each school, they both do cleaning, but there's a second one that's specific, and we have a very detailed cleaning schedule that we've worked out with DPW in terms of what those people do. So the fact that the town has supported us with extra custodians is really a great asset for us. The 3 tents, there's 1 at each school, those have gone up. I don't know that they're being used yet. I think they have to do some kind of an inspection or some other piece. They're waiting for that. They also erected those for us. And just generally for the town manager and his support. The last group of people is our parents and guardians who have, been very respectful and patient and understanding and just generally they've helped to create sort of very positive atmosphere, and we appreciate that. And we'll continue, for those who are driving out there, we're continuing to work on helping to get that to be a little more streamlined, because I think that might annoy people over time, so we're working on that. And then in terms of other things for this school year, and there is an article coming out in this Friday's Mashpee Enterprise as an FYI. I wanted to just quickly do a rundown of all of our new people. Obviously, we have Director of Finance Ashley Lopes, School Resource Officer Katie Hennessy has been outstanding from day one. Stacy Shackle is here tonight. She is, for this year, serving as a full-time district nurse coordinator. She is handling all COVID-related issues, including purchasing of any PPE or monitoring the purchasing of PPE. So we have a long-term substitute in for her this year at the Coombs School. So we're grateful to be able to do that. And we also have John Green is a computer support technician. He's doing a lot of work to support all the Chromebooks. Mashpee Middle High School, we have new counselor Melissa Clord, counselor Deanna Crowther, health and wellness teacher Todd Stoddard, athletic trainer Timothy Muse, and paraprofessionals Laura Taylor, Casey Pinzenall, and Molly Shields. Mike Patz and Joe Augusta, who were paras last year at the Middle High School, have shifted into teacher positions this year. At Quashnet, we have Assistant Principal Stephen Kapolka, teachers Elizabeth Beloin, Sarah Beckner, Silva Warren, and paraprofessionals Erica Emery and Brooke Regan, and also recess monitor Danielle Barger. Sarah Alves, who was a paraprofessional at Mashpee Middle High School last year, is teaching 6th grade. She's taking the place of David Williams during his deployment this year. At the Coombs School, Deb Goulart, as you know, moved into the principal job, and her job was taken over by Brian Crana as assistant principal. And we have Elizabeth Siegel, she's a BCBA at the school, and new teachers there are Amanda Jeffries, Samantha Matten, Amanda D'Italia, Amy Demers, who transferred from being a para at the Quashnet School, Judith McMorrow and Jamie Vincent both became teachers at Coombs, but they were paras last year, and then administrative assistant Chelsea Stroops, and Sarah Pockrass is the Coombs nurse for this year. Just as a plug for all who may be watching, we still need more bus monitors on our elementary bus runs. I think it's a perfect position for a parent or two, or someone who, what I wrote in here is if you, it's a position for you, building relationships with our students will greatly enrich your life, so you really will enjoy it, and it's not a great commitment to your day, so hopefully we can get a few more people to support with that. And Skyla already talked about the sports that are coming on, and I think when I look back so far in the first 6 days with students, I think on a scale of 8 to, a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it like an 8 to a 9. I think all of us felt it went more smoothly than we anticipated, which kudos out again to our teachers because they're the ones that truly make it run smoothly. There was a lot of logistics needed for the plan, but without them sort of taking the reins and running with it, I don't think it would have been as smooth. And I know we have glitches, and the principals can just give a little personal share out of each of their schools' start. But I do think so far I like the fact that our hybrid is a week on, week off for various reasons. And then at the elementary up to grade 3 can be in person. And like I said, so we have at least 1/3 grade here that's become totally in person, and 6 classrooms at Coombs have shifted to 100% in person. So, there are reasons why families choose to be remote. And sometimes it's a medical issue with a family member, but otherwise, if it was just sort of the unknown, we're hoping to continue to inform so that they'll choose to join the team, although that creates some bus issues. So why don't we start with, we'll start with the high school this time and go backwards, if you don't mind.
I take this off, right?
Yes. Let me put my back.
Before I get into the chair, members of the committee, just got an opportunity to give you a quick update on the opening here at MMHS this year. I had a faculty meeting Monday morning, and when I talked about the reflection of the first 3 days and now having 3 more days in, the word that comes to mind really is inspiring. From the support of the superintendent and the leadership team to get our schools ready to open safely and as safely as possible, and for our teachers, the attitude that they're bringing to the table each and every day is a can-do attitude. There has not been one woe is me conversation. It's all been about positivity, engaging our students, and learning as they go and supporting one another. So, when you start a school year off, especially in these types of circumstances, there's a certain level of nerves that you have. You're worried about certain things that are going to go well or not go well. And really, for me as the principal, last week and this week have exceeded my expectations. And our teachers are doing a phenomenal job and continuing to get better and problem solve each and every day. I don't want to say we haven't had little glitches and things like that, because we have. But for the most part, they've been easily resolved. I do think we need to recognize Susie Brooks and Sean Maroney through this process, where they have been able to triage and answer calls within minutes of our families and students. I also want to acknowledge our administrative assistants. I think having the modern teacher training, building landing pages and learning plans has been extremely helpful for communication and also for triaging anything that may come in on a daily basis that's an issue. So the teachers have done a phenomenal job. The DPW is doing a great job, very responsive, very supportive. But I think, to echo Superintendent DeBoer's comments, our students and families are the ones I'm most grateful to at this point in time. Not one, I'm going to knock on wood, there's no wood here, but at this point in time, not one student has given anybody any grief about a mask. Not one student has refused to follow protocols. They've been amazing. And if you go to the high school in the morning or afternoon, I know I see Mr. Gorman on occasion, those kids are standing 6 foot apart in a dot with their mask on without issue. And that just speaks volumes to our students, what great kids they are, and then obviously, parlays into the parents and what a great job they're doing raising these kids. And so we're very grateful. The parents have been super supportive, flexible, understanding, and patient. And to be quite honest, Principal O'Brien and I were speaking earlier before the meeting, and we've gotten a lot of positive emails from families. We look around different towns, different parts of the state. I keep telling our teachers and students, we're doing this. This is getting done, it's happening, and it's happening at a very high level early on. So I'm excited, I'm optimistic, and I just think it's a really, really great start to the year.
Yeah, if I didn't already, for all 3 principals, I really do need to especially acknowledge them as well, because they own this. It's beyond just a job for them, the attention that they put in and the dedication that they put into their positions. And particularly this year is a more challenging start than any year we've had. And they really, we've been going straight through since March, and they have never, same like teachers, it's never a woe is me. They're just continuing to take on whatever they need to do to make it work for kids. So I'm very grateful for our team. So thank you.
Absolutely.
May I ask a question? So thanks for all that. That's great.
No problem.
I'm very happy to hear that. And our experience having a middle school student has been excellent so far. So I thought about writing you, and then I figured I'd see you tonight myself. Have the fields been repaired based on the conversation we had with the town at the last meeting?
So I've been up there. They do look better. I'm not sure if all the repairs have yet to be completed. I know that the large craters have been filled in. Much of the debris that had been up there as a result of the other detonation seems to have been cleaned up. I don't know that it's perfect, but Mr. Trevay and I are going to walk up there tomorrow and do a quick survey as we start fall sports on Friday.
Right.
So we won't do any final changes and things that need to be done. We'll communicate that to the superintendent.
And as a follow-up, in my conversation with the town manager, he indicated he was told it has been cleaned up. The only question I think that A.D. Trevary had was whether there was any contamination to soil that needed to be replaced in terms of, was there some kind of
like a
gas?
remediation. It's my understanding that they use diesel fuel to burn some of the items and some of the materials. So I'm just not positive if that requires a remediation in the soil or not. Depending on how much they use. I believe it's either 10 or 12 gallons or more might require some type of remediation. But don't quote me on that.
They did pick up any of the nail. They used a metal like to pick up all the nails.
I was just going to say, Sam got a metal detector for his birthday last year, so if you need me to bring it up to him,
I can add that to my activities during the day.
Send him up there on Saturday.
That's awesome.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, then we'll do Principal O'Brien. Good job.
It's always hard to follow Principal Bellistracci. But hello, everyone. Good evening. And I have to echo the superintendent as well as Principal Bellistracci. It has been a great start to the year. And it's interesting that right before school started, so many of the teachers were saying to me, I feel like I'm a first-year teacher, and yet they have 25 years experience. And that was the mood and the feel in our building. It's like, okay, do I have everything right? And people were anxious. And but that professionalism, that experience, that compassion of working with children just comes to the top. And it's amazing. Today I was walking around classrooms and I went into a 6th grade classroom, and seamlessly the teacher had 8 or 9 students on the ClearTouch. The ClearTouch was a whiteboard, so she was doing the lesson with the students in class and the little pictures on Zoom. It was so seamless. That synchronous learning, you would think she had done this for years. It was just perfect, and she's not the only one. I can't say it's always smooth. There have been some difficulties with technology, but it's everything we can troubleshoot, and we have. We've tried to support everyone with that. Transportation was our other little glitch that we're always troubleshooting. But every Sunday when I send out the Quashnet blog, I start it by saying, "Dear Quashnet community." And it really is a community feel, more so than any other year. And the emails, as Principal Bellistraci referred to, have been fabulous. When I'm out on the curb greeting students in the morning and in the evening or the late afternoon, the parents are like, "I know everybody's doing the best they can. This is great. Our children are so happy." The transition for our 3rd graders has been really well received, and the feedback I've received has been great. So it has taken the whole community. It's been the teachers. It's been DPW. Our fire drill the other day was wonderful, and I felt like such a collaboration because our building's changed. Every single window in this building is open now. So do we go around and have to close every window, or do we get our students out? But I can say honestly, it's students first. Let's get the students out. We'll do the best we can. And it's that learning curve. It's our first year. And I think overall, I'm just so pleased with how things are going. And I think as problems arise, we're going to solve them. And we solve them together as a team. But overall, I'm just very, very grateful for the support that we have collectively. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? Yes.
So I noticed that the frame is up for the tent. Where
Yes.
are we on the status of the tents?
My understanding is the town needs to come and inspect it before they'll put the canopy over that. And once they do that, they'll give us the certification or the permission to use it.
I will say, speaking again as a parent, the backpack is pretty heavy this year.
It is. Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's just a little horrified at what they have to carry back and forth each day. So the sooner they start using those towels, I think many of us will feel like, okay, it's worth it,
Right.
But my kid is diligently carrying that full backpack every day, and I just think she's going to get a lot stronger by the time we're all through this.
And I think that is a good point. I do think having the week on and week off makes perfect sense, and we're getting into a routine and a rhythm. And as we go more, when you're in school, you shouldn't need to carry it every single day because you're coming back tomorrow.
Yeah.
So all of those tools should be able to stay in your desk.
Oh, good.
Friday is a different story because those 4th, 5th, and 6th graders do need to bring their home bags home because the desks would need to be used by the other cohort. But during that week, that's something I can certainly reinforce with teachers as well, because they should not have to carry everything home. They don't need their math journal necessarily every night when it's their week in.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was curious about. My daughter said that she was not allowed to leave it there, but I was the kid that carried every book home every night because I liked to. I don't have one of those kids now, so I think, and just it was just. I'm just saying it's just different, and like Patty said, we're all getting used to kind of this new thing, and I do appreciate also last week going that cadence of we started remote, so it was like remote, in-person, remote, and I noticed that that turnaround that 3rd day
Right.
was challenging for my kids. Like they were not in any sort of rhythm. They were kind of like, where am I sort of thing. So I love that we have a learning plan that allows them to go 5 consecutive days in a cohort. I've heard some crazy stuff going on in other districts, and I'm just so glad that we've gone with that model. And I hope that makes the transitions much easier for the kids. So
I think so. And that first week also, even though it was a day on, off, on, it was so important because so many of, every one of those students needed to see that online platform. And so it allowed the teachers, really gave them an opportunity to teach the students what to look for. And even now, like this week, there have been a lot of questions coming in from families, from parents, from students. And I have to give a shout out to the office staff because they have been troubleshooting a lot of calls. But they're managing them so well and really helping all the families. But it was helpful for kids to see. And I think when this cohort, when the Mashpee cohort is remote next week, it will be smoother again because they have seen the at-home learners as well as working in school. So they'll know exactly what to do and what that expectation is. Yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you, George. All right, so our littles are not taking their things back and forth from home because I can't even imagine. We already have milk crates filled with water bottles, sweatshirts, lunch boxes, so yeah, we're not sending anything like that home. We are doing quite well, especially when you consider the age of these little munchkins. So we had some glitches with the transportation in the beginning because parents stepped up to the plate to drop their kids off so we could have buses and get everybody there, and now they're saying that some of the buses are empty, and so they're asking for bus transportation, which is great. I'm sure you're not agreeing with me. But the less cars we have in that circle, the better. So today we had a little glitch where we couldn't use the parking lot over here, so we had the preschool parents come around the front to pick up, and the preschool teachers, kids, it was faster, it was easier, it was better, so we think we're going to stick with that. And I think that the biggest difference is that if there's a problem, then a whole bunch of people are hopping in to try to solve the problem. And that is great because the more minds, the better. So I do have 6, perhaps 7 classrooms that have no remote learners left in them because they keep wanting to come back in. I'm getting full, like my school is getting quite full. But everybody's doing pretty much what they're supposed to. You know, you have to remind 5-year-olds to sit, there's tape at the lunch benches. You know, go over to your side of the tape because they just naturally just want to communicate with the kid next to them. So there's a lot of reminders. There's a lot of reminders about putting the mask above your nose and things like that. But they're really doing a super job staying like arm's length apart. Not that they're 6 feet, but it's okay. They're trying their hardest to stay as far apart as they can. So yeah, we're off to a good start. I've been teaching since 1994, and I feel like brand new teacher too, Mary Kate. Like just never seen anything quite like this. So it's been challenging, but the staff has been so great. So we have recess split up into sections, and we do a rotation through so that they stay with their cohort, and then they go through the sections. Of course, they like this section better than this section. When do we get to go to section 8? But that's been working out quite well. So, and lunch today, Patty was there for lunch today, and I know there has to be some little silver lining to COVID, and if there's any, it's that lunch is so nice quiet and they're just chatting nicely with each other. And we have lunch in the caf and the gym, so Brian and I both do those lunch duties throughout the day. But yeah, the kids have been really great, and the teachers have been. We've had some tech issues, and Susie, Sean, Holly, and we have a new person, Jack. Man, they are just all over it. It's been really, really good, and I'm sure that Hope doesn't, and Patty don't ever want to see another email with my name at the top.
No.
Very, very nice about how you guys are helping out and just so supportive. I just can't even tell you, it's awesome. Our tent is up. It also needs to be inspected. Brad said it was missing a couple of parts. It was only done in picture form. That Brad. There were no words to tell the guys what to do, so they used the picture. But I was at third school, so I think by the time they got to me, they were pros.
So the tents are like IKEA instructions?
Yes, exactly. I think the language was something. Yeah. So, but things are going well, and you know what? The weather gods have cooperated and continue to cooperate. So we've been very fortunate. We're so lucky to be back and have our kids in the building, and it's very exciting.
I just wanted to add to that too. One of the things for Gus Stickley, when I went to, I think it was Friday at one of the schools, the bag lunch was not like you would think. It had all the things a little kid would like. Like it had one of those Lunchable pizza things, and it had a salad and bananas. It had a lot of stuff in this brown bag. I was very impressed. But today, like in her gymnasium, the kids are at the desks, like in Mary Kate's as well. And so when you're done eating, they have just a big trash can on wheels that just gets wheeled around every kid. So it's super neat. And then in the main cafeteria, I was talking to Randy, and he does the same thing, the trash cans on wheels. And I said, how do you like this setup? And he said, it's so much better because there's just not a lot of mess. I don't know what it is. Well, there's fewer kids as well. And kids are talking. They don't have their masks. They're eating, but it's not silent. You know, you have conversations. You're not yelling or anything. So it's really not like prison-like that I think someone has said somewhere on some social media.
It's quite jovial. They are...
and the kids
they seem real happy.
Yeah, I've asked them, and they're all happy. They'll talk to you. They'll tell you about their day, and they'll see.
You know what we had today? We had these little, I thought they were chicken nuggets, but they were pizza, cheese, and tomato sauce inside of this.
Yeah, it looked like a ravioli or something.
It was, I had one. It was delicious.
Chicken nuggets for tomorrow, Deb, I gotta tell you.
Oh, good, okay, good.
I heard really good things about the pizza crisp.
I'm telling you, he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Only problem is that, you know, they're like, can you open this? Can you open this? Because they're little.
Yeah.
So we're still working out the time.
I just wanted to clarify one thing you said early on about more kids, that you're getting full. For anyone who might be watching this, we've added classrooms so that a full classroom this year is 12 to 13 kids.
Yes.
It's not 19, 20 kids.
Yes.
So it's not that we're filling up classrooms beyond what.
No.
I just
Everybody's
wanted to
still
clarify
6 feet apart. Sorry, I should have clarified that. Yeah, no, we just,
We have how many classrooms for each grade at Coombs now?
for K1 and 2, we have 8.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of classrooms. And we have places for all those remote learners for when they come. We have places set aside in the cafeteria for them to sit at with their class, so.
But for the most part, the class size based on 12 or 13 are pretty full. She has no wiggle room with rooms. And so if for some reason we continue to get more kids, she only has a couple spaces that can maybe take 14, and that's only on K, that room. Anyway, so it could be a little problematic if for some reason we keep getting more and more registrations, because at that school they're 100% in person, and there's a lot of stuff. So hybrid, you know, even though those are full too, but you have a little bit of wiggle room sometimes.
Right.
What do you mean we keep getting more registrations?
Well, this week in particular, so last week and this week, you would be amazed at the number of registrations that come in. People just showing up to register their kids, or do they go through the portal?
For all elementary or just kindergarten?
Oh, no, across all grades.
High school too, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, so the first couple weeks of school, it's very hard to get out an enrollment number, which I'll talk about in a minute, but people wait, or whatever is going on in the world, they just don't do it until we were registering kids this week, and you're still registering kids that are just showing up. So it's,
And most of them need buses.
So I guess to that point, will we reach a point then potentially where we cannot have another in-person student at Casey Coombs?
I mean, in theory, you could. What we would have to look at is, you know, is there any excess, anything in a classroom that if you moved it out, you could get one more desk in there 6 feet apart? They're pretty well down to a teacher's desk and just student desks now. We'd have to explore some other spaces maybe. But we're not there yet, but hopefully they're full over there, pretty much, based on the fact that we had to separate and use so many classrooms with a count of 12. That's the 6 foot distancing is what makes it hard.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had a couple of questions from Patty. Are you going to say more in your report?
Good. Well, I was just going to go to enrollment, so you can ask a question.
Well, 2 questions. One, I wrote it down. So is the assistant superintendent then the point of contact for all changes that people want to make, or are people supposed to go to their principals? Okay.
So she is.
No.
No, they are sending them into various locations. They generally go to the principal, but they get forwarded to a combination of Kathy and Hope. I get a lot of them as well. We respond that usually it's by October 5th, they should expect to hear from us.
No.
No?
No, it's every day it gets later.
Oh,
why they should
okay.
expect
Well, the
to-
ones that I most recently responded to was an October 5th response date.
It's best for the mass general public who's watching that you go through your principal, because those are the people who need to start the process, and then they come to us. It's much more confusing if you come to us first, because then it just, so yes, they should go to their principal, please.
So I just wanted to clarify that because it sounded like you were.
Ultimately, yes, but it
Yeah.
filters through them.
Okay.
So
And-
I mean, but I don't want people.
No, she's behind the scenes.
And I mean, I can't emphasize what a important role that is for you and Kathy to be playing to help accommodate families. I think the fact that we're willing to do that as a district with that kind of turnaround is, I think, another reason why it's great to be in Mashpee, to coin the phrase, but it really is important, I think, to make every family feel like not only do they have a choice, but that they can change their minds when they kind of understand more about what's happening. So I think that's really great. On the issue of transparency, I wanted to ask about how families, or especially maybe the school committee, I still don't really understand the process for how we're notified if any positive COVID cases emerge. I think they're already, as we were talking about earlier today, people cough and have reasons to be sick or out of school that aren't COVID. And I know that rumor mills will start to swirl and things will get on Facebook, and we know Monomoy had cases and that they had to do some things, and so it just raised the question to me. I'm not sure I know or understand how that's going to be handled.
Yeah, so we're going to let Stacy come forward just to share her expertise on that. One thing I will say, though, the directive to our staff is that there's sort of a common language to share with families that you're just going to be out, and whether you're having a Zoom that day or not, because of your absence, you're never supposed to share your sort of personal situation medically or anything else about your life as well. But so if a teacher is going to their primary care physician to be tested, that is not shared. It would only be something that impacts and is communicated if someone tests positive. So we've had various people who felt that they had in the child of a teacher and felt, okay, some of the symptoms are there, they go get tested. That would not be something discussed until after we had a confirmation, but Stacy is the expert, so I'm gonna let her speak.
Good evening. So it would come from Patty, a letter, should we have a confirmed case. But again, not everything is COVID. So we work with the Board of Health, which works with the VNA. So they work in partnership. Meg is our lead VNA nurse. We're in contact daily with the Board of Health, looking at if anybody has anything, if there's any testing. At this time, we do not have any confirmed positive cases, but it is an ongoing, kind of 24/7 communication, and something that we are watching. So if and when, but again, just because someone is tested doesn't mean it is COVID. We're using it as a rule out. We are being very cautious with if you are sick, following the protocol, making sure that we follow all those guidelines. So it's September 14th, page 8, Mr. Gorin, today, that shows us our symptoms and things that we're following. Those came out again, updated again. So it is.
And in terms of staff, they, if they think they have some of the symptoms and they're starting to think, everybody goes through Stacy for guidance. Oh, so she'll tell them to go to their primary carers, I believe.
So we go through a daily attestation checklist that you who are parents go through with your children, staff do that also. Our criteria is a little, we're still using the guidelines that were from the CDC prior to the September 14th DESI guidelines, which are a little more intense is the wrong word, but they're more detailed, so that it just gives us an extra stopping point, so that should we need to get a little more information or do a little bit more digging, so to speak, we're just being a little more cautious on our end for being proactive. So, and so far it's working out, I believe, quite well. And I have to shout out to families, keeping kids home when they're not feeling well, picking people up, sending in changes of phone numbers. That information will be coming out through Power School soon too. But everybody's been absolutely amazing. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah, thank you for the role you're playing too. I think it's really
I
nice.
dream of wipes.
I like how you're demonstrating our protocols.
I'm sorry, it's just I can't.
So I think the message then for parents is, if the district hasn't notified families that we have a positive case, we do not have a positive
Correct.
case. So I want to make sure that that's clear. And then also that the question I had for you is how I have not had to take a COVID test, and I hope I get through this without having to. But is the wait? Are people able to get in for tests quickly?
So testing is not all equal.
Yeah.
So PCR test, the test with the swab, that is not the antigen test, is the preferred test of choice. With that, it's not the rapid. So going through your primary, going through a test site that does the PCR testing is what we are working with Board of Health and the VNA to encourage. So connecting with providers and going that way versus going to a place that you can just drive through 15 minutes and have your results. Because those come back with a 30% false positive. So if it's falsely positive, that's not good for a lot of reasons. Plus you're out when you don't really need to be. And the new guidelines are if you have a positive antigen rapid test, you need to still follow up with a PCR test, which is another 3 to 5 days. So it's best to just get the message out there to work with your primary for the PCR test. It's varying in time. People are getting tested anywhere between 2 and 5 days seems to be the average, with a turnaround time of 2 to 5 days. So it's still a wait, but it is the most accurate. But we also have flu A in the state and the community. Strep. It is also again ragweed season. So needless to say, the health offices have not been bored.
And we're still, I had a parent ask me about the flu requirement.
Correct.
And they incorrectly assumed they had to have the flu shot by the start of school, and they were worried because they were late. And I said that I thought the deadline was December 31st.
And you are correct.
Okay.
And if people have questions, please reach out to the health offices or myself. We will work with you directly.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, just to clarify, because you probably said it 5 times, I missed it. What's the communication protocol? Who's notifying from the school the affected cohort? Is that coming from you?
So that
the
would be
superintendent?
identified by the Board of Health.
The
So
Board of Health is
it's the Board of Health, the VNA for contact tracing. We will work with them to see if anybody even is a close contact. Because again, just because there may or may not be a positive COVID test and or someone is getting tested doesn't mean there's also a close contact. Because to be a close contact, it's within 6 feet for more than 10 to 15 minutes. I think it was 15 last time I spoke, but it's now 10 to 15 minutes in a time. And so that's where we're taking and looking at seating charts. So it would be a contact tracer that would communicate with the family if they were identified as a close contact. We as the schools are working with the Board of Health and MEG to identify who potentially would be a close contact. But close contact tracing comes from the Board of Health in conjunction with the VNA.
But in terms of notifying our community of that we have a positive case, that comes from us.
Correct.
But the individuals who need to know that they might have been in contact, that's through the VNA who does contact tracing in the Board of Health.
And it's probably important to note too that that is a significant change from when we started the discussion. It was that the elementary school classroom is considered close contact.
Correct, July 10th
That's
guidelines.
no longer,
At this time,
at this
on this
particular moment
date.
right now, it is no longer considered.
So
close
that is
contact.
why we are working, the data that we are taking, and our nurses have been, like the team and principals, like it's amazing what everybody's doing, and families communicating, because we are tracking that. I will not be surprised if it reverts back to that, depending on how things play out in communities, but at this time, you are correct.
And I have to admit, I get confused as well, but I did read the latest update from the DESI guidance, and it really does lay out very clearly, step by step, what you do, what you have to do to come back to school, what you should do if you don't go to school. They have a link for local testing, and so you know where you can get the testing locally. So it's pretty convenient.
Well, I'm just trying to understand, I'm still processing slowly here, the communication protocol. So, let me try one more time. What is it the school is going to communicate if I'm a parent and one of my kids is in a cohort that may have been contacted? Nothing, right? If there was a positive test for someone in that cohort, then the school will contact me,
So
or the
if
Board
no,
of Health will contact me.
yeah.
If you're identified as a close contact. Because again, just because there's a positive case, so one of us here tests positive. Contact tracing is we're all taking attendance so that if I test positive, I share that I was at this meeting. We look at who I was within contact with, if I were within 6 feet, and for how long. So since I'm hopefully not speaking for more than 15 minutes, this meeting, not impersonal, does not count as a close contact. Now, if I were closer in here for 10 or 15 minutes, most likely Kathy would be considered a close contact. You maybe not so much. You probably would. Patty probably not. So then it's looked at by seating charts. So what the schools are doing, / me, is looking at all seating charts, attendance, sign-ins, everything. And then we work with the VNA. They look at that, decide who would be a close contact, and you get a call from them.
Okay, so a parent would not get a call from the school in any case. Is that correct?
Correct, as far as if you were considered a close contact. We will communicate through Patty if we are notified that there's a positive case in our community. You won't get a lot of specifics. If you go on the DESI website, it shows what schools will release for tracking, but correct.
Okay. And so if there was a positive, Patty would contact
I would send a communication to all the families.
to all families.
It's not just,
Just generically
it's just
saying,
an FYI.
okay.
And just because someone is positive in our community doesn't mean they either contracted it from here. There's so many variables, so.
Right. Okay. But the communication will come from the
Correct.
superintendent. Got it, thank you.
You're welcome.
It is interesting, though, in a classroom setting, if several kids are identified as close contacts and they're suddenly remote when they weren't, or something, I mean.
It's not hard to do the puzzle.
Yeah, the kids are going to talk, they're going to, so I think that the risk is that you're going to have parents find out through their children. And then I think we have to be ready with, look, your child was not deemed to be a close contact. That's why your family was not contacted. You know, we have these protocols in place kind of thing.
And just because somebody is out right now, we have scenarios, and it is not because of the COVID situation. So, like, again, not everything is COVID, so.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned it,
Right.
because I'm already kind of hearing little chirps and stuff, and someone was coughing at a meeting I was at this morning. And so I think it's just important to know that if we have a positive case in our district, that will be communicated district-wide. Families will know that.
And we hope, and we're all hoping everybody's collaborating together to get that information to me so it gets disseminated. Because sometimes the Board of Health, there's a lag time with testing and reporting, so we are asking people to be forthcoming, open, honest. It's kept confidential, but based on a need-to-know basis. But in order to make sure that we're doing our due diligence, we are asking for people to come forward should it happen.
You're on it, Stacy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Great, thank you to
Thanks,
Stacy for all that she's done for me.
For the record, I talked one extension time.
Oh, no, it was
Was it
twice.
twice? Twice.
And just to reinforce for everyone who's watching is that if your child is not feeling well for any reason, you have the ability to stay home, be a remote learner. If you fully engage with all your classes that day, you are marked as attending that day. So it's a little bit more flexible environment this year. So please, if you're not well, stay home and engage in your learning as a remote learner for that day.
And I want to thank you and Sean and I guess it's Susie too, whoever Power School people are. I mean, the very first day, very first period, you think you have everything set up. I'm in a meeting and I get a thing that says, your son was marked absent. And I was like, what? You know, I'm like, walk to his room and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't find the thing. And then a minute later I get another thing that says, your child was marked in class. And I was like, this is like the best tool. I love that we are taking attendance. I love, the same thing happened on Friday when he was marked absent in like study hall. I had to go in there. I just, as a parent, I can just say I'm so appreciative of the tools that you've put in place that we did not have really in the spring, because it just makes it so much easier to be like that at-home parent while your kid's supposed to be in school. So thank you.
And I'd just like to add, I had the opportunity of going around and to the 3 schools and visiting with the teachers, and all were glad to be back. Quite a few of them commented on the work that the superintendent and Mary Stickley did in terms of the memorandum of agreement. Most of them said we just wanted to be back here, and that was obvious in talking. But then all of them, not all of them, but a significant number of them commented on Sean and Susie and the work that they had done, and that's a shout out to both of them, because that's. I mean, I have trouble with my phone, so I can't imagine what they do to get all of this stuff done. But they were all glad to be back. They're all wary. They're wary at that point in time. This is before school started. Was how is it going to work with remote and in class at the same time? They were nervous as to how that was going to go, and it appears that that's going well. So that's just from my walking around and talking to people.
Thank you for doing that, by the way. That was really. I never heard of any school committee chair doing that before at the start of the school year, so thank you. And that's not a dig on you, Don. I'm sure you were very busy. And you too, Jeff.
I'm impressed you did it.
Yeah.
Well, just to say to George too, I think he didn't anticipate the amount of time it was
Oh.
going to take him. He was like,
Yeah, it was 28 hours maybe.
Wow.
Because all of the teachers wanted to talk, almost all of them wanted to talk, and they were, you know, I'm not in the line of fire, so they can, you know, feel free to say what they wanted to say to me, and if I asked, you know, if they needed anything, let us know, and a few of them came up with stuff that they needed, and so it was not just hi and welcome back, it was hi and how are you doing?
Great.
So
Thank you so much for doing
it
that.
did.
Yeah.
I did hear a rumor though that you told them you'd get them anything they want.
I said that if you needed anything, we would get it if the superintendent, and no, I'm sorry. No, I didn't say this. If the principals felt that that was a need, if there was money there.
He is only talking as George Smith. He can say whatever he wants. wants. If he's not in this room in this meeting, he doesn't have any authority, so.
But a few of them did come out with, requests that they had, and I think we followed through on a few of them. But were good suggestions, actually. Okay.
Okay, so I already touched
We
on
done?
personnel. No, I want to just quickly do enrollment, just to update. And like we said, we still have a lot of moving in. We still have some kids probably in the system that have not, they've gone somewhere else, but their records haven't been requested, and it always happens that first week of school. But just so you know, the total enrollment as of today or yesterday is 1,505. And last year, according to DESE for 1920, we were at 1,563. So that's a 53 student drop. But in preschool alone, in 18-19 we had 94 preschoolers. Last year we had 91. This year we have 55. So obviously that, for preschool you may choose to keep your child home, and we do not offer remote learning as an option in preschool because preschool is not a required grade level. And then the other piece was we have 36 homeschooled students where generally we have 3 or 4. So that's higher. We hope that they'll come back. So if you take those, I took a few out of the homeschool in comparison. I added 69 back into 1,505, which is the preschool difference, and homeschooling minus 3. It comes to 1,574, which actually means we're up from last year's DESE number. The high school, just in their 3-year span, it went from 705 in 18-19, that's from 7 through 12, to 710, and then this year it's 726. So, there is some good health in those numbers, and really the big two differences are the homeschooling option, which I understand, and then the preschool. And we also, as of today, have 125 in choice. It was a little higher this morning at that meeting, but there were some people accepted to choice that ended up not coming, and they were still on our list. So there's 125, and just looking at information from prior years randomly from memos, but on January of 18, we had 95 school choice kids, and in March of 19, we had 101. So that's, showing you that there is some growth there. Yeah, we're up. So we'll have a more refined enrollment number for you in October. But as we were saying at the meeting this morning, October 1 is sort of that cutoff, but you don't know that that's the accurate number on October 1. It has to go through a process, so it's later than that you'll actually know the confirmed number. You got any questions?
Yeah, so since you're talking about choice, how many unfilled choice spots do we have again? We have 125 occupying.
So the only places that we have some space is 4th, 6th, 7th, and then 9 and 10. So we have 27 accepted this year, and proposed we had 47 seats. So
About 20 seats still left.
yeah. Yeah, well, the numbers might have been pre-COVID. Now with the hybrid model, it's really, we're not necessarily looking to add a whole bunch of choices this year. We're good. But all are welcome, but we're good.
Okay. It's yours, ma'am.
In your packet, you'll have the FY21 budget to actual. As my first review of this, we are on track. There are some line items that are overspent at this point. That is due for many different reasons. One of them is some of the COVID fund expenses that we've gone through. The start of the year needs to be transferred out, and we're doing that. This report was done last week on 9/15. There have been some adjustments made to date. I know, for instance, Don has sent me an email with some questions. I don't know if you want to go through those first, or...
We usually don't care about Don's questions. I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's two.
I couldn't help myself.
First it was not standing out and meeting on day one, and now it's asking questions.
Sorry, Don, I'm just trying to lighten Ashley's first meeting, that's all.
Okay, that's Cemetery, yes.
Yeah, at 3.
4 o'clock at my.
Yeah, 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Yes, let's hear Dawn's questions.
Go for it.
So on page 3, the first question was why are the high school principal supplies over budget? The 2020 graduation was included in that expenditure. The cost of the tent and all the precautions for COVID are in there. We're in discussions with the town on how that's going to be supported, if it's staying in the general fund or if we can move that out to COVID funding. So that's ongoing. On page 5, there's a salary reimbursement line. It's approximately $5,000. That's due to whenever the town receives a reimbursement for things such as workers' compensation. That gets put back into our budget. It gets put into that line, and then the school district will reallocate it to the appropriate line. We're in the process of cleaning that up. On page 7, which is on the budget report, not the school committee packet numbering. The technology budget right now, we have projected as expenditures for $370,000. What we had projected in the FY21 budget in January was $483 for choice. So Hope and I are working on that. We have some monies we think that are encumbered that we've already allocated in different funding, but we're going to clean that up for the next meeting.
What I was going to say is since the email came in when it did, the person who handles the POs is already gone for the day. So we will get back to you on that answer, but we couldn't have it for tonight.
I accepted your answer.
Is this
But,
also,
you know,
This is
now
highly
I have to
unusual.
question- Now I have to question it since you haven't looked at it. That's fine.
is that the same line item though that we already was negative from the beginning?
Yes.
Because it's the artificial offset for school choice, right?
Yes.
Yes.
212,000.
As we continue on page 8, there's the Coombs health expenditure. We had, we expended some COVID funds there. We've recently reallocated those out, so that is no longer in the deficit. On page 10, you'll see that the telephone expense is up 31% this year. Due to COVID and the internet, we've increased our internet access, so that funding is a little bit more, the expenditure is a little bit more. When I was talking to Sean this afternoon, he mentioned that E-rate might be having more of a reimbursement. He doesn't know the specifics yet on that, but once he does, I'll be able to report that out. The next question was about the high school building maintenance line on page 11. That's approximately $9,000. That was from the, in addition to the security grant that we paid for in the general fund, and that work was done over the summer. And then on page 27 of the packet is the grants. John had a question about what are those going to be used for. So for instance, the grant that is 113 is going to be used for tents and bus monitors. We've already allocated those funds to that. And then the 102 grant, which is the 225 per pupil for reopening, is being used for technology, PPE, and some miscellaneous supplies. That grant needs to be used as of December 30th, and then the ESSER grant we can use up until the following year. It's just like our other title grants that we have. The next question was about Medicare reimbursement, why it was down approximately $150,000 from last year. That's due to not receiving our reimbursements from January through June yet. They're still in process. That was all the questions.
She's much faster than Paul.
And the 113 and 102 grants, you have a sheet you have updated.
Yes.
Was that
Yeah.
provided at the last meeting?
Yeah, you're gonna see a little back.
And that's further in the
In
packet.
the
Oh,
hand-
okay.
In the handout she has for you tonight.
Dawn asked all my questions, so, good.
So, in regard to the 102 grant, so is that going to offset, you said technology, so is that going to offset some of the expenses that we have already incurred?
So that's one thing that we're,
The internet upgrade that you said you needed to do?
so that was a bit of our conversation this afternoon, because Darlene was already at the office. We're gonna really work through that the next day or so to see where that technology part lands. We've already purchased Chromebooks with these funds. They've already been allocated to additional Chromebooks outside of the technology budget.
So those came from where, the grant or from the line item budget?
So there's funding from both.
Don, I don't know what you're asking. Can you ask it a different way?
So
That's what's in the 340. Don't you want to
I
know?
guess I'm
what's-
trying to, so we purchased additional Chromebooks. I think everyone was aware that we needed to supplement the number of Chromebooks. So are those all in the line item budget and coming out from there, or are they going to come from the 102 grant and just haven't been reallocated?
So the
Or both?
both. So the planned purchases that we were making yearly are in the general fund, which was where it was supposed to be. And then in addition to, which is what the COVID money is for, those Chromebooks have been purchased through the grant funding.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Anybody else with questions on FY21?
Good, thank you.
Are there other questions, Nicole?
Yep, you got them, John.
Good job, John.
All right. So we started preparing for FY22. Today we met with the finance working group, and to date we've met with all the building principals. We still have to meet with Sean on Friday to finalize technology. But in your packet is included the memo from the town outlining the expectations for the budget season. They requested a level funded budget for FY22, and that's what the administration is working towards. You will also see the budget timeline in there. They're requesting that we submit our FY22 budget into Munis by October 2nd, which is next week. In your handout on the table, I provided a summary sheet for FY22, what we're projecting now. This is the budget that I will be entering into Munis next week to meet those deadlines. We went over it today in the finance working group, and again, we're going to be meeting with Sean on Friday, so we'll have a little bit better technology budget.
For those that work at Matt and the financial working group, this budget includes items that may be may be on the CIP. Specifically technology.
On the
So
technology.
it includes that until we get
CIP approval.
CIP.
Got it.
In addition to the summary for the FY22 budget, I've included a projected CIP as well. We're told that this is updated based on our conversations that we had today. Do you have any questions on that?
When do we have to go for CIP?
I don't know if that's on the,
Usually sometimes it's
On the calendar?
sure. The specific, I don't think we have the specific
It's not on this one.
assigned department meetings on here. No.
They've usually been in December,
Yeah, I think it's on that.
late November, early December.
So I think we'd said we needed to get a better estimate for the gym
Yes.
upgrades. So how's that happen?
So I reached out to our athletic director today, he gave me some contacts with some vendors. I'll reach out to them.
Can you just explain what those upgrades are that you're asking for?
For the gymnasium,
Yeah.
it was the flooring, the scoreboard, and the sound system. It was consistent with the request that was made last year.
And the field maintenance, this is presuming that the DPW is or is not moving forward with a request to move the turf.
Yeah, this was kind of a don't let the apple wither on the tree kind of thing, recommendation, because with the wastewater over 52 million, I think, we find it hard to believe there's going to be any appetite for turf improvements. We wanted to make sure that we had something built in, that we're going to get some field maintenance that's above and beyond what we've been getting for the last 4 or 5 years. And to kind of show how expensive it is to continue this when we do.
But has there been a discussion with the DPW? I thought I thought that the town had approved, what was it, $30,000 to do a study?
Oh, we did the study.
We did the study.
Right, and then nothing's,
The turf has been disapproved, it's not been approved by the town, the CIP knocked it down. So the planning and construction committee needs to pick it back up, but in the interim, the only thing we can control is requesting money for business.
And it seemed
And-
like today, this year, of all years, you know, pushing forward on a turf proposal amid COVID. Right now, COVID's a priority and not turf. But we want to make sure that the town still understands that that is a priority. Just we've got to pick our battles, I think. Do you disagree with that calculus, Don?
well, in a vacuum, that makes sense. I guess the question is, if the DPW is saying that they're not willing to move forward with it, then I guess that makes sense.
It's not the DPW. The DPW was more the willing to move forward with turf road.
Okay,
It
well,
was disapproved by the town.
disapproved by CFP, right? Right, and so then the question is that being resubmitted to CIP?
I have no idea, it's DPW.
Right, which comes back to
But
the
usually
DPW has,
it has to go back to the planning and construction committee, they have to re-engage the project manager to get a new estimate of the turf and then resubmit it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can't resubmit the same project, but again, I mean, the next time that Nicole has a planning and construction meeting, she can probably provide us an update.
Yeah.
We're not voting on this, right? So
no, I'm just making a point.
Yeah.
The other question that I had, I know we tossed this around 1,000 times. I see, I guess I'm still looking for, we had talked about doing some furniture upgrades
For teachers?
for teachers. Is that,
We did that, right? We did find some really good desks that some of the teachers have found for themselves. We put it here instead of choice.
should we put that in here?
Okay.
I'm looking at Jeff and Nicole.
Well, is furniture not normally considered capital improvement?
It is if you were going to do something broad.
Okay. It's gotta be over $50,000, right?
25.
25,000, sorry. Okay. 'Cause I know we've had kind of an unwritten agreement with the town that if we can carry away that it's not capital, then we can get that still. Yeah, I'd be interested to see if, I mean, we already have $813,000 over request this year, I don't know if it's gonna be good. We're gonna have to go through and prioritize like we always do, right?
Yeah,
I support you 100%, I mean, I'm all
I'm
for it.
just, like I said, I'm just asking the question as I look through all of these items.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not sure that I would do that this year of all years, when space configuration and moving things around is kind of
Well,
paramount to filling our classrooms appropriately and maintaining social distancing, and it seems like a weird time to make investments in new furniture.
We also had the 3 classrooms that were given the $10,000 grant,
Yeah.
and their furnishings are basically in storage. They came in, so we wanted to learn from that
Yeah.
to sort of inform. And I know one of the teachers at the high school that has that, her desk is one that I would say most teachers would want. It wasn't part of that; she bought it herself. But the way it, ups and downs, and really a good desk to look at. So I feel like we wanted to let those 3 classrooms inform what would be best if we did a broad purchase. Sorry, I should have taken this on.
Do we want to maybe do like a phase replacement starting in 2022 or something like that? Like we do more food service? I don't know.
And then at some point, I guess hearing from the committee on prioritization of these items would be a good thing to have. they're just numbered, they're not in priority right now.
You need to have that by the second, or?
You just have to go to
The
CIP.
well, this has to be submitted by the second as well. It is kind of good to have the list.
I mean, one of the biggest items on here is the gymnasium upgrade, and I guess I just, in order of priority, I just, particularly right now, I'm struggling with what that represents and how critical that is to have a new scoreboard and a new sound system.
The biggest thing in there is the floor. We want the floor. The floor is the
Not
big.
safe.
I know, there's been injuries and it's just not a good floor.
So it's replacing it with a tile floor again or wood floor?
I don't know which coach you'll get. I don't think they like the rubber floor that's in there. And the other piece of this, so the air conditioning at Quashnet, that really is going to land under Catherine's CIP because that's where that belongs. So we always put things here and then they end up getting moved over to her side. And when you look at the gymnasium upgrade, that's really on her side as well.
As field
Field maintenance,
And field
yeah, most of it is.
Most of it's
Falls
over.
under DPW.
And it's just like really stuck at the bottom in the food service.
So when will you have that conversation with Catherine?
I'll call her this week just to see what she's putting on hers. And when there is going to be a planning and construction meeting.
When's our next meeting?
School committee meeting?
Yeah.
No, it's the 21st.
So,
It's the 21st.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Of October.
Yes.
Oh.
And I know that CIP committee will not have met by the 21st to do any of this, so we should have time to further discuss it.
Other questions?
So does the finance committee believe that we will ultimately be able to come in at a level funded,
You mean the working group?
or the working group, finance working group, believe that we will be able to come in at a level funded?
So I will say that the town manager in our conversation had said that the operating side, he is looking for level funding, but he understands the contractual obligations, and those will be what they are. So that's,
That's
I mean, we don't have to make up the 2.05 down below. So,
Oh, that's good.
yeah, that's what he said.
That's
Yep.
good.
We will see increases down below because the transportation contract and other contracts that we have that do have a COLA associated to them.
Yeah.
The budget, which we don't have, which we discussed, which includes the technology that approved by CIP, is in line with the level fund budget. I think it was 2.86 or something.
Yeah, so if the tech comes out and goes to CIP, then we're roughly a percentage lower, which keeps us pretty tight to contractual labor increases.
And we had some good discussions that we get later, but this is the first time we saw this stuff as well.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The final handout that I provided tonight was just the additional expenses due to COVID-19. It includes a summary, so I included, just for reference, FY20. It was approximately $290,000 that was expended through the town of Mashpee. The majority of this was allocated to technology and then food service for both food and the food service payroll.
You can see that on this set.
No, I think they just got handed out.
They just had the summary.
Yeah, the summary, that's for you.
Okay,
Specifics.
sorry. You have a question?
And then as you follow down the sheet, you'll see the FY21 town of Mashpee funding. That's approximately $370,000 right now. The large chunk of that is personnel. We did have to hire additional teachers to fill those positions at Coons. And we also have the long-term sub nurse. We've been having regular meetings with the town of Mashpee and having conversations about what items are being funded in which categories. Right now, we moved to a monthly meeting, but as things come up, we are in constant contact. The final section are the grants that were allocated specifically to the public schools. As you can see, a lump sum is going to technology, and then another portion is personnel. This includes the bus monitors. We have not filled all those positions to date, but we do have the funding to be able to get to the training.
Patty, are you still meeting with Rodney weekly? Anything on deck for tomorrow?
No, just checking in.
Yeah, nothing.
I did ask Patty to get some sort of alert Rodney that if this continues into next year the same way that we're operating now, there's going to be additional expenses that are not in the budget. And that he would be aware of the amount of money that we would need if we had to continue next year the same way we're continuing this year.
Right, and we talked about that last week, so he just wants our, non-COVID FY22 budget presented, and then include a supplemental piece that would detail what we would need to maintain if we were continuing with, 12 in a class and having to deal with COVID still. So he wanted to see, so he would know both numbers.
No surprises.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I'm hearing today that vaccinations may not be getting the children until the fall of 2020.
You know you're on television, right?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Unless it's official, please. Please don't scare people. All right.
You ready for policy group? You ready for policy subcommittee?
Oh, policy subcommittee, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, yes, we can go to policy.
I was willing to wait, my friend. You taking this, Kathy?
I kind of, I'm looking
Go for it.
All right.
The chairman of the policy subcommittee,
Yeah.
please.
So, we met, what was it, last week? I think it was last week, but, first, there was no policy on new sports, and we kind of, our recommendation is to keep it that way, as in regards to volleyball, most recent volleyball discussion we were having. We just feel if we don't have it, we don't really need it, so we're going to recommend that we stay that way.
With the control being that the
Yes.
superintendent would provide that as a budget suggestion to carry more sports on the budget.
Signatures on warrants, we also recommend keeping it at the 3 signatures, just because we felt that, there's just more people kind of looking and being aware of what's going on. So that one, that's our recommendation on that. I'm not missing anything on that one. And then the anti-racism resolution, I believe this had been emailed prior to my being elected, but I did also get like a follow-up email, I think all of us did, on this from the people who are kind of pushing it, at least on the Cape. So we went through it, we changed it, kind of customized it to our district. What you have in the packet is what we edited it to. And we made sure to reference the tribe as well in here to kind of, make sure that we were all inclusive of all of our students in the community. So it's our recommendation that we approve this policy as it's written in the packet unless there's any edits that we see that we need. But we felt it was pretty all-encompassing.
And can I just add, we have another policy meeting, I think it's the end of next week,
Friday.
Because the harassment policy that we thought we were ready for, when we sent it to Sarah, she had sort of a whole different version recommendation, and also the recommendation of adding a Title IX policy because of the significant changes in that. So that's what, at that next meeting, we're going to look at those two, and we have the wording to sort of tweak on the payment of warrant policy, because it previously said, approval of the school committee, which implies that there's a majority of members having signed off on that. So we're just gonna make it clear.
So the harassment policy, is that for district employees, students?
No, it's every.
It's all
everybody
encompassing.
that's-
So does it impact the teacher contract?
No.
There's nothing in there about that?
No, the teacher contract has language
It
about
just-
it, but
but
it's legal language that is going to align with whatever Sarah's saying.
Okay, I just was making sure, because I felt like we looked at that.
Yeah, it references Mass General Law and all of that.
Yeah, but it'll be the same.
Yes.
That'll match. Okay.
Can we have a motion to approve the anti?
We already have a motion to change from a subcommittee of 2 members.
That's what I was gonna say, it's already moved.
So I do have a couple questions for the policy subcommittee. Did you guys take a look at policy IJ in regard to instructional materials as it references diversity? And, what this committee, as far as our policy or
Yeah, we did not connect this anti-racism resolution in our current policy. We thought that we did go through quite a few individual policies from our policy manual. We are very comfortable with the diversity, anti-racism, inclusion, equity language we have in our policy already. This is just an individual resolution outside of policy for the school committee to approve.
Right, but this resolution is in sync with those policies?
Well, there's no policy in here. It just says that we're,
No, I know. This is a resolution.
I don't
There-
see anything in the resolution that's counterintuitive to any of the policy we have in place.
Okay. I guess one of my concerns is that we are dictating in the resolution, we're making a statement here that we will incorporate into our curriculum. And I'm not disagreeing with what we're incorporating, but the fact that we are dictating that we're going to incorporate the history of racial oppression, etc. Where in our policy, we have specifically tasked the selection of instructional materials and programs to the professional staff of the school system. So are we overriding that mandate through this resolution?
Oh.
I'm just asking the question.
Can I get feedback on that? May I? Just as the curriculum person? So my answer would be no, because you, in the policy, have delegated the task to the professionals. This is indicating that you, as the overseers of the school district, are going to ensure that it's happening. And if it doesn't happen, that's a personnel issue that you would handle through the superintendent, the oversight of the superintendent. So it doesn't say, this is not saying that you are guaranteeing, you are doing the work of including diverse authors and so forth in there. But if the superintendent, if that doesn't happen, then you do that through evaluation of the superintendent, which is your job. Does that make sense? You don't have to agree, but does it make sense?
Well, I understand that that is the mechanism on how we enforce our policies. So how would we enforce the resolution?
It's not, it's very similar to a goal.
So it's just a statement?
It's a statement that we resolve, if you don't, we either agree on it or we don't agree on it. I mean, honestly, if we don't have unanimous consent, then we shouldn't be doing a resolution. But it's just a goal that we think it's very important that the curriculum includes racial oppression and work by Black authors and authors from diverse perspectives, including the Metro Alpine tribe, which we have in there to be all encompassing. And that's something that we can keep in our forefront as a philosophy, that when we're talking at the curriculum subcommittee meetings and we're talking about a new program that somebody puts in there and say, hey, wouldn't that be awesome if we were able to do this book that I read by a certain author. I think that's more of what we were looking at least me, and Kathy was very similar to us. This is not a dictating thing, it's that we're resolving to utilize this philosophy to like build a roadmap about how we would want to move forward for specifically anti-racism, diversity in our education. Something we've already been talking about as we moved into our new goal set.
Okay. Then the other question I had was in regard to where we resolved that the Mashpee Public Schools and all the school districts in the Commonwealth must guarantee that racist practices are eradicated. I understand how we can resolve for Mashpee. I guess I don't know how we can resolve for everybody else.
We kind of talked about that, and I think we felt that it was, we're like in support. We're all supporting each other to work towards that goal. So all of the school districts within the Commonwealth are working towards that goal. So it's, yes, we're going to focus on our school district, but in addition to working with the others that have adopted this resolution that are also working towards those goals, is how we kind of discussed it at the meeting.
But what about those who do not approve this?
But you're saying that you as a committee
Yes.
assert that every school in the Commonwealth should be doing this?
We're basically...
Even if they don't, it's not a goal that you have to demonstrate progress towards? You're just asserting that you believe it should be. Is that right from the folks that were at the meeting?
That's how I understood it. That's exactly how I understood it.
And we did have that was probably...
Yeah.
That was the longest part.
That was the longest discussion.
We had the same conversation.
Yeah, we had the same conversation.
Well, I guess it's not clear to me, and it wasn't clear initially to you without a lot of discussion, it sounds like. How is it going to be clear to the public?
This is a resolution from us for the school, not for
No,
us.
I know, but they're reading this, and I go, what is the teacher saying?
I really think we're making this really difficult.
I feel like I do feel it's kind of, I get what you're saying, Tom, but I do feel it's kind of clear. It's basically just saying, like, we do not support racism in our schools.
Mr. Chair, can you call the question, please? Just move on.
Okay. Call the question.
I'm sorry. I mean, did you have more?
I
Or was that
have
it?
one more question, but since he's called it,
Okay.
I mean, I find that disturbing that we're going to curtail open discussion, but go ahead.
Calling the question is I can't really start discussing it. It's a comment to the committee if they want to move on to vote. If they're not ready to move on to vote, then continue the discussion.
No, I'd like to hear Don's
Go for it,
question.
All right, so then, I guess the last question I had ultimately comes down to the last sentence. When we do clarify and acknowledge that all lives cannot matter until Black Lives Matter, yeah, we made a specific effort up above to bring in our indigenous tribe. Now we're leaving it out. So, what makes one group better than another group in regard to including it in that resolution? If you could answer that for me, please.
I can speak again on the committee, like what we talked about, which is the Black Lives Matter is what, right now, that's the impetus for this resolution. And so firmly stating that, that's what the function of this is. So it's not, but other lives don't matter. It's not that Indigenous lives don't matter. It's simply saying that all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. So it's not an either or. I think that's the point of it. Whether you agree with it or not, that's not my place to say, but I wanted to explain what the function of it was.
I know what the origination of it is, but the policy committee has made a specific decision to modify some, or to amend the language. And I'm asking why they didn't choose to amend that.
Okay.
I think they'll just give you the answer.
And we thought it was very important because of our locality. that when you read the whereas, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th paragraph, when it says from diverse perspectives, that we included our local tribal population. I don't see what you want to say in here. I mean, if you have a proposed edit, please provide it. But again, the purpose of this resolution was to define the environment that we're living in right now, which is the Black Lives Matter movement. And again, if it's something that you don't agree with, please provide your solution so we can move forward. This is just a recommendation of a mask-provided resolution that we tailored to fit more closely with what we thought was an individualized resolution, not the same general repetitive generic resolution. It really was said, we resolved that the entire Commonwealth to do this and the entire Commonwealth to do that at the time. So I'm okay with, and I won't speak for Kathy, of course, but I'm okay if people think that we went too far in tailoring it, and now it doesn't have the same kind of oomph, well then please provide it with it.
Yeah, and if you see an edit, definitely please bring it forward. I think, what Jeff said, putting the diverse perspectives to include the tribe, I think that's something like we said, it's one of our goals is to make sure we are including the tribe in the curriculum, making sure we are including their perspective in what we're presenting to our students. And I almost see that as somewhat separate from that last sentence in a sense, because it's not, I think that last sentence is tying the whole thing together, whereas the curriculum, we're just kind of, maybe we did narrow it down a little too much, but I don't necessarily think we did personally, just because it's, again, talking about curriculum, whereas that last sentence to me is all-encompassing.
Well, it seems to me that if you want to leave Black lives, then you should also include in there then Indigenous and all other lives. Because it's truly, if you want to single out one and pull them out.
What does everybody think about we must ensure our own school culture is anti-racist and acknowledge that all lives matter?
I'm going to say no.
No,
I can't do that one.
I thought Kathy articulated exactly why the change was made on the section regarding curriculum, the history of racial oppression. There's something a little more specific to Mashpee that we were able to add in there. And I think that the resolution should stand on its own otherwise. So I appreciate the thought that you guys put into it. And I think that any edits to the final sentence completely diminish the point of the resolution.
I agree.
So if you're free to vote it down, Don, but I wouldn't support any additional changes like that.
Don?
I think, in my personal opinion, it creates a racist policy when you separate and try to segregate one versus the other. So I cannot support it the way it's written. I think Black lives, I think the Indigenous people who've also suffered normal, uncomfortable oppression and suffering themselves and continue to have the same level of suffering, that all matters. And we as a committee aren't here to pick sides. We're here to support everybody and all of our students, regardless of what color, creed they are. Is that not what we're here for?
Yeah, that's what the first line says.
Right. So how can we deviate from that?
We're not. The last line does not deviate from that.
That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. I just believe it does.
All right, so where does that leave us?
Well, we still have a motion, but I hesitate to do a resolution if it's not unanimous.
I agree, I feel it loses its weight if it's not unanimous. So,
Gotta do a good thing here.
And I'm supportive of it, but I think it needs an amendment.
Okay, so you are,
I would make a motion that we table this until the next meeting, we can bring it back up at the next meeting.
motions are made to table until the October meeting, October 21st meeting. Is there a second to that motion?
Give people time to think about it.
Well, I'm not sure what's gonna happen between now and October down the line.
Well,
The policy subcommittee already vetted it and recommended it, and we're either gonna vote it or we're not gonna vote it.
I mean, are you planning to reach out to the tribe to ask for their opinion on this anti-racism resolution? I don't understand what you need to know or do to satisfy your concerns.
My concern is in regard to the phrasing of the language. So, I don't feel I need to reach out to the tribes specifically unless, we want to run this by them and see what they think. But I'm not the liaison to the tribe.
Well, this is the first I heard that there was an issue with this based on an omission regarding the indigenous peoples in the last line, so.
Well, this is the first time we've discussed it, so this would be the first time we could hear about it. Otherwise, more than willing to go ahead and vote tonight. Otherwise, I'm leaving an opportunity for a subsequent discussion, but I'm not hearing any.
it's just that last line that you have the issue with?
Yes. I don't believe it's inclusive.
There has been no second to the motion to postpone the decision until the October 21st meeting, so. Any further discussion before I call for the vote?
Well, are we still keeping our motion?
No, I think that's.
I'd say yes, personally. I feel that,
We just had the discussion before about non-unanimous voting.
yeah, I mean,
I just want to make sure you still support the motion, that's good. Or we can call for another motion, so it's up to you.
I mean, how do you, I feel that it's been on, it's been kind of passed around since June. I do feel it's kind of important that we establish that, we support this type of sentiment in our school system. I mean, I disagree that it's not inclusive of everyone, but I guess that might be a personal belief that I'm holding on some of this, but I don't feel it's not inclusive. I feel it's very inclusive. So I don't know, if we table it or if we come back to it and not vote on it tonight, really where it's going to change much. That was one of the lines that came from Mask, so it's not like we kind of came up with that line ourselves. So I guess if we're going to vote, do I want it to be unanimous? Yes, I would like it to be all of us in agreement, but I can respect other people's difference of opinions on things, but
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that it's the difficulty here is that it's being parsed down into individual elements and it's not being looked at as a whole.
Yeah,
it's a resolution that's basically reinforcing the fact that we don't put up with anti-racism crap and
We don't put up with racism.
yeah,
exactly.
Yes.
I just said a triple negative.
That too.
There you go. Boil it down to one sentence,
Yeah. So
and everyone will be happy. And
So I'm happy with keeping the motion.
I'm fine with keeping the motion
Okay, the
also.
motion still stands.
And I just want to point out that in this final sentence, taste the sway gone.
Yep.
the all lives include the Indigenous lives. So we are saying that all lives cannot matter until Black lives matter. So the Indigenous lives are represented in this statement. I also agree we should take the vote. I should have listened to Jeff earlier. Sorry, Jeff.
Any further discussion? Okay, call for vote. Kathy?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
John?
No.
Nicole?
Yes.
And George, yes. Passes 4-1.
Thanks for your work on that.
Yes.
It's very thoughtful.
The other thing, long as the policy committee is meeting, the motion that was passed regarding signatures basically said during school closure that one person would sign, et cetera. So I guess I'd like a firm definition of what school closure is. There was no question back in March or April when we did this, everything was closed down, so that was closed. But do we mean closure? No students? Do we mean closure? Okay, so that doesn't become an issue. So if you guys could decide what.
I mean, I don't think that, I mean, in my opinion, I don't think they need to go to policy subcommittee. We just cancel that policy and go to the policy as written, which shows the majority of the school committee members.
Okay.
Unless there is some kind of appetite to go back to single signature.
No, I mean, if I'm not asking for that right now, I'm just saying what would be, when would I bring it up again? What would be the definition of closure? Got it?
Okay.
Thanks. School committee self-evaluation, page 33 and 34.
Looks awesome.
So remind me again,
The numbers, right?
higher
One. It's on the second page. A 1 is strongly agree.
Okay.
So the lower the number, the better
Lower the number, the
the
better.
outcome.
So I thought we had some pretty significant improvement. Oh, we were all very happy with it.
I think I only have been here a month, so.
You're like one.
Let me just fill this out.
It's nice to have 3 years worth of data.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think the only thing, if you're looking at 2020, even though it was an improvement, is still in the 2 range, is the committee has a public relations plan for the school system, so that's sort of an ongoing thing. That could be something we work on.
I know last time we took this and we identified, like 4 or 5 focus areas, right, to discuss during the retreat and kind of build our district, our own internal school committee goals. I know we've been kind of pushing off the retreat, and I agree that's not a priority right now. So I don't know if anybody's got any caliber to do that again. It's not as fun because you gotta be matched up and between a bunch of food.
Yeah, let's think about it.
What's the committee's desire?
Would it be, Mr. Chair, would it be all right if we sent this to the effectiveness and efficiency working group to identify some focus areas and then get us a plan together for a retreat or something?
Sounds good to me. We need a motion to do that, or I can just refer it.
I think you just refer it, unless
It is
unless
now
there's issues
referred.
with the other 3 members.
It is referred.
Yeah, I would just suggest that you look at, where there's wide variability in some of the questions, where we've got 1s and 3s,
Oh, I got you. Between the-
Yeah, so
fair
we've
enough.
got somebody who thinks completely differently than somebody else, so it might be useful to just kind of dig into those a bit and see why that might be.
I'd be interested to see if some of those are outliers, because as Kathy said, she was only on the committee for a month. Yeah.
I don't remember anything at 3 though.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I think some of the dashes might have been, not that you can identify a person,
But are the dashes, like they didn't answer the question?
it was a don't know.
Yeah, oh, I don't know, okay. I didn't, and that doesn't count towards, there's no,
Community average, that,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. It is reversed. Delegate Assembly, which is happening on November 7th. We need to designate a person as delegate. And Nicole has volunteered.
Chairman, I move to designate Nicole Bartlett as our delegate to the Mass 7th Annual Delegate Assembly on November 7th, 2020.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion? Okay.
None, thank you, sir.
No, okay.
Do we
Any?
need
no, nope.
do we need to have an alternate, or do we not allow to have an alternate?
We can have an alternate, I mean, it's a virtual meeting.
You're 100% guaranteed you're gonna make it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I can designate, if there's some conflict arises, then I can reach out to some, but you guys all got the delegate manual. You should have all gotten it in the mail from Mask. So they might not have you on their list
I got it
yet.
in the mail. I think I stole one from the school.
No, this came in the mail.
Mine came in the mail.
Mine came in the mail.
Clean this week.
Okay.
I'll have Gail check for.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think you need to designate a delegate. I mean, an alternate, yeah. I kind of have to go anyway, so.
That's a
Second. Okay, any discussion? Vote. Kathy?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Don?
yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And George, yes. Any additional public comments? I see. The only, well, that's the reporter, so
There's nothing in the Zoom.
nothing in the Zoom. Any additional business from before the committee? And none, the meeting is adjourned.
Great.